I think it's up to the realtor to go back and if need be, push back a little bit and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, like every number ends with 2 zeros. I know that's not accurate, right?
Now, inflation's way above, but expecting inflation to go back to 2%.
Now, here's the thing. It depends on how thrifty you want to get.
Welcome back to REI Hot Seat. Here with Jacob Campanaro yet again, and today we're talking about a 16-plex?
16 unit, yeah.
16 unit in which city?
Orillia.
Yeah, so we went through the numbers roughly on this one. Obviously, with 16 units, there's quite a bit of income, quite a bit of expenses. I like to take the angle in this show, how can you make this make more money? Or how can you make this deal work? And I know we've talked about that a lot. So let's dig into that. Jake, first off, tell us about the building. Is this purpose-built, 16 unit?
So this is, just to preface it, something that my team and myself will be bringing to market in the near future. So hopefully this episode comes out before then. People can kind of get the inside scoop.
Oh, this is fresh. This is like two days before it's released. So yeah, fresh content here on this channel.
Yeah. So anyway, so this one is going to go to market by request of the seller. I always like to keep things off market, but sometimes the seller wants that extra exposure. So that's what we do. So this one's going to market, but this is like I said, a 16 unit. It's in Orillia. It's purpose built. So it's all cinder block, top to bottom.
Okay.
And then pitched roof, so it doesn't have a flat roof, which is quite nice. And it was renovated top to bottom. So it's a little bit different than some of the stuff we've been reviewing on the show.
Like what age would the building be?
So the age of the building is probably, I don't have it offhand, but I would say 60s to 70s.
So it's
right? Older construction.
Like a 50-year-old building kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you said it is pitched roof. Do you have any idea how old? Like, is there a lot of deferred maintenance, or is this like done?
No. So here's the interesting thing about this one, right? So these guys, they came in and bought it about 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago, right? And they had that 5-year plan for this one, right? So they went in, they did a full reno on this one. This one's had the 9s done. So new roof.
So all the units are renovated as well?
New roof, new gutters, new flashing, new fascia, windows, common areas. All the units were done.
And what kind? Do you know what kind of heat sources it has?
So it's all electric heat and air conditioning.
Is it like a heat pumps?
Yep.
Okay, so that's obvious, different than electrical.
Yeah, it's not baseboard.
Yeah, you don't want baseboard.
Yeah, very different than that.
And tenants pay everything.
Tenants pay, for all utilities. So you'll see in there while we're running through things, I think hydro's like $1,900 for the whole building.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so it's quite light.
So let's take a look at a few things. Before this episode, Jake, you and I went through and we put down the current rents. So that's up here on the screen. There's a mix of, $1,600 here. There's 1 2-bedroom unit, and that one's at $1,850. Yep. They have some furnished units. Yep. Is that right?
One furnished unit. Right,
so it rents for more. So out of the bachelors, these ones with the Bs on them, there is one that has furnished, I believe.
Yes. So there's 1 bedroom that's been furnished, and that's the 1 bed that's renting at $1,400. Okay. Right. And the plan is, so the sellers right now is as units are turning over, they're going to like a furnished model here.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're boosting your income by what, $300 almost?
Yeah. So this one, so you've got 1420 would be with parking. So we got it in here at 14. So some of these appear that they're higher than their market, but that's because there's parking built in, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So 1420 is the rental on that one. That's pretty good for a bachelor.
Yeah. So that's and we'll get into strategy on how to maximize rents here, because there's a couple strategies, some that I think by the looks of this, the sellers are starting to implement. And we'll get into it once we go through the numbers.
Yeah, because that's where it all comes out. You're going through the numbers.
That's where the gravy train is on this one. There's a decent strategy
to differentiate. So you're furnished, you're going to be somewhere around $1,400 versus your unfurnished is $1,270 or $1,280.
Yep.
So you really have to do an ROI on buying furniture. Is it worth the $120? I think that in an appraiser's eyes, or if you're wanting to push your appraisal, that's one of those times you do it, because it's not just the ROI. That might not in and of itself look that great, because what are you going to make? You're going to put $5 to $10,000 in furniture, and you're going to have pretty much a 5 to 10 year payback on that.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. It depends on how thrifty you want to get.
Yeah, you can get real.
So I was talking with a couple investors the other day. We had an intake call, and they were telling me that they ended up furnishing a student rental. The whole thing, it was a 15-bed or 10-bed for student rental.
Yeah.
Free. They furnished the whole thing free.
Oh, wow.
And they basically found like older furniture.
Yeah, all you have to
picked it
do-
up.
You just
So I'm not saying that that's the goal here is try to be thrifty and find free stuff. But I think there's a high end luxury way to furnish this, and there's a more budget friendly.
Depends on what your tenant's expecting. But okay, point taken. Are you bringing a doctor in or a nurse, a traveling nurse in with old crappy furniture, or do they want something more modern?
I would say IKEA is going to cut it.
IKEA will cut it. IKEA is not particularly comfortable in my opinion, but I
we're
think it
splitting
will.
hairs here.
I think it will. Okay, there's actually an event that happens annually in London, and it's in April, where all these students just throw their good furniture and stuff out on the road.
That's exactly how this couple furnished their place.
You just take your trailer down there and just start piling stuff in.
University town.
Yeah.
And they said so. It was during COVID and a university town. So they said there was brand new.
Oh yeah, they
brand
throw
new
stuff
like
away.
$10,000 furniture sets outside.
Yeah.
Anyways,
They throw stuff away. So yeah, that's a strategy for another day we'll talk about. But okay, so looking at the rent roll right now, like this building's pretty much market rents, even a touch above potentially when you add in the parking income. So we've got $295. That's assuming we rent out these two that are in yellow, which are vacant. So the two beds currently vacant, that's going to be an $1,850, and then the one bed we're expecting $1,600. So those get rented out. Then we're full again. $24,295. 2% vacancy here, just for good measure.
Yep.
And then we've subbed in all the expenses, including $21,000 in tax. We've got insurance at $6,300. Maintenance at 4% we put in, so that works out to roughly the $750 a door. Management allowance, I've got a 6% in here. Electric, like you were saying, $1,920. Water, sewer is the expensive one in this building, so clearly water is still centralized on the building. And landscape and snow, a $3,000 budget. So one of the things I noticed about this is the seller actually gave seemingly very reasonable numbers. Oftentimes, like we've commented, a lot of sellers don't want to give a realistic number. When these ones, we had a couple of times where we said, hey, maybe there's even an opportunity to get some of these down.
Oh, for sure. Right. And I put it back on the realtors as well, Andrew. Like the sellers are going to provide you with one thing. I think it's up to the realtor to go back and if need be, push back a little bit and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, like, every number ends with 2 zeros. I know that's not accurate, right? I've never seen a bill come into my house that's exactly, X with all zeros.
Yeah, it looks like you're rounding here.
Yeah, so there's a lot. That's a lot of the cases. They love to round. Other cases, they miss expenses, right? Garbage removal. Well, but we forgot about that, or there's
and we'll always add those in. That's the point of what we do.
And that's the important part, right? That's what you need to make sure you're doing. So with this, again, the sellers, savvy investors, right? We had a very good conversation. We all know what's going on here. So we got realistic numbers. Talking about bringing numbers down, I think this is a prime candidate for like a wise meter, like a
for
sub-metered
submetering water, yeah,
right.
Yeah, and there's the other thing that you could do, and I don't know why more people don't do this, is you just do a flat rate water. So you advertise it as plus utilities, so you still say $1,600 plus utilities. And why stop at water and say, well, that's centrally metered? No, just say $50 a month for water on top.
Yep. So we're doing that with one of our landlords right now. Our leasing team's helping them out. And so what we did is went in there and we, they weren't the nicest units, so we brought them down a little bit. I think we're renting a 2-bed for like $16 or $15.50 or something. But then we put $40 parking, $50 flat fee. So now we have a unit that's renting over market from what it should be. And
it'll look good on the lease.
It's going to look fantastic.
But I mean, you still can advertise at the other rate, because if you say it's plus utilities, just you tack it onto the lease. They knew they were going to pay plus utilities. And 50 for water is a deal. No one's actually only using $50. Like you could use 75.
I don't know about your experience, Andrew, but I find, and I know we've spoken about this before, but I find to crank up the rental rate and then say all inclusive, maybe not all inclusive, but to crank up the rental rate and not charge for parking or not charge for water, I actually get more pushback from the tenants on that than I do on a lesser rate.
No, advertise the low rate.
With the built-in or with the extra water and the extra parking.
Add the low rate.
Every day of the week.
Always, like, why wouldn't you? People literally filter their search based on price. So come up in the low search. When they get there, it's not like you're doing anything that they don't expect.
Yeah. It says right there, utilities.
Yeah, if it says utilities extra.
Extra,
Yeah, so even if you can't separately meter them, still bill it. Okay, great tangent conversation because I think people need to be thinking about that.
Yeah.
Don't just like you're literally throwing money away if you don't add on
recoverables.
Yeah, call it a recoverable.
The like there's so many little ways to make extra income in these buildings, and although you look at it and go, oh well, $20 for the locker isn't,
but it
anything,
adds up.
but it's $20 times 16 now.
Yeah,
right?
and then times 12,
and then times 12, and then that applied to a 5% cap rate.
Now
we're talking something. Hundreds of thousands.
Yes.
Like, so it's so important to make sure you're looking at these little things and don't miss out on that opportunity.
So what is 50? So say it was $15 times 16 units times 12 months of the year. That's $28.80. If you take that and divide it by a 5% cap rate, that's $57,000 of value on the building. Yeah. That's why those things matter.
That's why they matter.
It matters that you build back your water. It 100%. Matters that you do that stuff.
So especially on a building like this where the water is so high, like you're still going to have water fees for the laundry. I don't you know, you're earning money on the laundry anyways. It's coin operated laundry. So you're going to have to cost that.
And we have that in here at $4,200 for the
yeah, there you go. So there's your cost to cover that water. But to sub-meter, I know I want to say I know for a fact, but let me hold back on that. I'm pretty sure there's actually shutoffs in each of the unit already. Each unit has an individual water shutoff.
That would make sense.
As you walk through the hallway, there's little panels where you can pull those off, and they got the water meter there, or the water shutoff, I should say.
Yeah, they have a shutoff. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you can basically cut the line, put the meter on,
absolutely,
start metering, and then Wise Meter. And I keep saying that because I've used them most recently, but I know there's other companies out there.
Yeah, I've used one too. I forget the name of it,
but they come in, they'll install, and as long as it's a reasonable install, they don't have to start cutting drywall open. They'll take care of it.
They'll do the whole thing. Okay. Yeah. So the one I got, I had to buy my own meter, and then it was just a unit that hooks up to Wi-Fi that you can attach with 2 wires to your meter, and it basically reads your meter just like I think the municipal meters read. Yep. Just like there's a pulse sent off the meter when it clicks, and it reads that.
Yeah. And look, some buildings it doesn't make sense because if you have to start opening up walls or putting a meter under each faucet and water source, you can't have 6 meters per unit. It doesn't make sense, right? But if there's centralized plumbing or plumbing going into a hot water tank in each of the units, then you're golden. You can really tap into it quite easy.
Yeah, there are ways to do it. Otherwise, you just do what Jake said, and you just treat it as a recoverable. You put a flat fee back on it. And then you divide. Like this water and sewer bill is obviously quite expensive. Yeah. So if you look at that, what is that averaging? So you could just take 1 year's track record and say, what is that averaging per month per unit? So divided by 12 divided by 16, that's working out to $56 per unit per month. So if you do it at $60, you should be covering that. And no one's going to balk at $60 for.
I know we're doing 75 on some of our renovated stuff. So like a nice fully renovated unit as these are, we're throwing about $75 on of recoverables.
There you go.
Right. And we call that gas and water, right? Mm-hmm. $75.
I mean, I've got ones in London, they're spending more than that. So, I guess some of it depends on the city, and then some of it is going to depend on your tenants. Yeah. Okay. So looking through the rest of these numbers, I think we were pretty thorough on this. I mean, there's always a chance we missed something, but here's one interesting number they have, a tech package. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So something that these guys did was they wanted to offer everybody in the building internet and TV. So what they've actually done, so every unit in this building has a TV already installed.
Oh, they gave them a TV.
The TV is there. You have a whatever inch TV in your unit.
And you have internet.
And you have internet. Everything's there, right? So they earn income off of that tech package.
Oh, so they build it into the lease.
So they build it into the lease. So maybe they're getting a little bit more.
Yeah. So some of these numbers are a little boosted because of that. Again, looks good in an appraiser's eyes.
That's the right. So you got the tech pack. They're obviously paying for that. Mm-hmm. You and I were kind of off camera chatting about different ways to structure that tech package. Right now, my understanding is they actually have 16 individual.
Well, they must. I mean, I was thinking you get one of those like direct fiber optic lines that can do, a couple thousand megabits a minute or a second, and then hopefully you're good enough, and then you just wire the whole building up with Cat 6 or Cat 7 to each unit. You were mentioning you thought that they had tried that and it didn't work out.
Yeah, I know in the past they had a wireless system.
They had a wireless. You need to actually
so they tried to do like a wireless booster thing. It didn't work out, but this one now is
Yeah.
solid because they're obviously having
Yeah.
individuals. And I think for them in particular, they're saying,
Yeah.
hey, it's better for us, not worth the hassle
Yeah.
of trying to fix
to have all the
something or-
different services.
Right.
Yeah.
So now it's just, it is what it is.
I'd
Every
say-
tenant can call
Yeah.
the company. If they want more channels,
Yeah.
add more channels. Right. If they want
Oh, yeah,
different
yeah.
internet, call an ad for the internet. But we're paying for the base.
Yeah, the big thing would be the channels. Like that needs to be customized per unit.
Yeah.
So yeah, good to know. I think that's a future area for exploration of,
Yep.
as a potential cost savings. But right now, yeah, that's a big number in there, and we're going to leave it as is. So they're asking 4.3 for this building. Hasn't hit the market yet, but it's
Nope.
going to. I'm coming in with a 4.67% cap rate on that right now. We talked about the way that you or I would likely try and make this work if we were going to do it because it's renovated. It's not so much a play for long-term, like a BRRRR. It's not a BRRRR. It's more of a long-term appreciation thing. So
I think it's just a solid asset.
Yeah,
Where, going back to that one we did on the beachfront one, right?
Yeah.
Where we said, hey, it's a solid long-term asset.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the thing, right? Like a lot of people, BRRRR. That's all you hear. But there is other investors out there.
Well, yeah,
like,
that's
there's
an active.
the long-term
Are you
investor.
the active investor or are you the passive investor? This to me seems like more for the passive investor. The active one wants to BRRRR it. The passive one says, I don't have time to BRRRR it. This actually fits my.
This is the call like I get all the time, and I was just saying this to somebody earlier today. Right? We take intake calls and we call them real estate action plans. Right, where people come in and we talk about holistically investing. We don't just say, what do you want to buy? It's, let's look at all aspects of your life. And you wouldn't believe how many times we get the doctor who has 3 kids, 3 dogs, getting divorced.
Yeah.
And he's like, and I want to do a BRRRR because he went to a mastermind on the weekend
Yeah.
where they were pumping BRRRRs. Right. And now you're sitting there going,
Do you have time to do a BRRRR?
how are you going to manage this? Right. And I would never say don't do it, but I really like to poke holes in the theory, right? Why does this make sense? And this is the type of asset where I would say, listen, you have the capital. We can go CMHC financing.
Yeah, and that's how I have this set up.
Yeah.
And yes, like looking at these numbers, 45 years likely because it's all been renovated. You said,
Yep.
Is that under the MLI Select program?
It would be. And we could probably target MLI Select here. It would just be dependent on can we tap into the numbers before reno, and or can we bring it further from where it is today?
Oh, okay.
So there is a way to get it done. I did speak to a broker about it.
So are we looking at 40? Is 45 realistic if it's not MLI Select?
Yeah. So about 40's realistic. 45. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you can do 45, if there is a play to do 45, you mentioned that you just saw one close under CMHC at 4.6.
Oh, 4.6%. Yeah.
Yeah, so that works out. Like I kind of worked backwards. What's going to get us above the 1.1 to 1 DCR, debt coverage ratio? That's about an 80% loan to value at 45 years, 4.6% interest. Obviously, if it's slightly different or CMHC doesn't approve that, then you might have to adjust either your loan to value down. Like basically, if your amortization is going to be 40, now you're going to see all of a sudden this no longer meets the 1.1. So then we would need to come down to say a 77 or something like that. Whatever.
Hey, if we're over a 75.
Yeah. If you're over 75, it feels like you're winning.
Yeah.
Interesting thing is that over the weekend there was, just before the weekend, there was that bank in Silicon Valley that crashed.
Everybody's talking about that.
That went under, and because of that, it changed the outlook in the bond market. So now bond yields have dropped significantly over the last few days. So now a lot of people are expecting rates to decrease in the near future. Who knows how long that lasts? But that's a signal. Something to keep in mind is that could have a drastic impact on our market and what happens at real estate prices in the next 6 months. So something to keep an eye on, certainly a signal, but we don't have a crystal ball. Anyways, Jake, this is a cool deal, and it has some cash flow from the looks of it. Yeah. Obviously, there's a certain type of buyer this works for.
Yeah, and I did want to mention one more thing, Andrew, just before we wrap things up, because we mentioned at the beginning of the show, and we actually didn't even go into it yet, was the how to add additional income here.
Yeah.
Right? What can we do outside of reducing expenses? How do we add income? Yeah. And so a big one for me, and I'm working on this actually as we speak before this thing hits the market. I'm working on trying to get, so Orillia, a lot of people know Orillia, big nursing education program there, policing education program, as well as there's obviously hospitals and things like that. So what I'm looking at is, can we get this furnished and can we rent it long term to these facilities or to these institutions? Call the college. We're down the road.
Housing.
Yeah, we're down from the college. We're close to the hospital. Can we get nurses? Can we get traveling doctors in here?
Yeah.
This is the type of building they want. And to the best of my knowledge, and I've sold a couple buildings in Orillia. I'm not an expert on Orillia, but this is good product.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's not many buildings in Orillia at that level. This has been done top to bottom. This is a beautiful building.
Well, hopefully you can send me some pictures before we post this.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get some pictures up for this video.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, and Jake, I like the creativity. That's where it's all at. It's it's asking, how can I make this deal work?
Yep.
And there's usually a way. And you don't want to force a deal, but if a deal looks like it works at surface value and you just want to optimize income, then that's kind of the way I think you need to start thinking. It's not where you finish, but you start asking that question, how can I increase income? Like right now, this looks like a return on investment of about 13% at current. But how do you improve that? It's by decreasing the expenses if possible, adding rents, because we know that's just if rents stay the same, but we know over time rents don't typically stay the same. They tend to increase over time.
Everybody sees that over the last year, right? We're looking at 30% higher.
Yeah, exactly. Like this is assuming rents stay the same. If they keep going up 30% a year, you can bet that return on investment goes up a lot. So kind of a tough thing to factor in because we don't know where that is. I've got a 2% appreciation, and I think, again, looking at my crystal ball, but now we're kind of getting back to that point where I think it'd be normal to assume we'd match inflation on our appreciation. And now inflation's way above, but expecting inflation to go back to 2%, obviously that's what Bank of Canada says.
Yeah, and I've always kept my appreciation around 2 to 3%.
Right? Through all the craziness, 2%, 3% was right.
That's another thing to watch out for, right? When people are saying, look,
10% inflation.
Yeah, I've seen that so many times where I'm just like, how are you getting 10%? We're like, well, the market was
that's what it's been
20% last year, and I was like, no, it's not year over year. We got to look at a long period. So,
all right, Jake. As always, let's just direct people to where they go if they want to learn how to get access to deals like this.
You got it. Yeah, link below. As always, guys, go to the link. We'll set up our real estate action plan. We can talk about buildings such as this. Talk about strategies on how to optimize your building. If you need help leasing, we can implement our recoverable program for you. Anyways, so just any questions, go to the link below. Let's get that conversation going, and we can go from there.
Awesome. And if you made it this far, hit the like, subscribe, notification bell, show us some love on the channel, share it with friends, somebody you think it could help, and we will see you next week.
See you then.